The quest to root out literally any shred of access to abortion or consideration for basic human rights and access to healthcare continues in Idaho. On Tuesday of this week, new bill was introduced that would classify the act of helping a pregnant minor to get a criminal abortion as human trafficking. So that's bad enough. But I want to be very clear about what they're trying to outlaw. They're not just trying to outlaw stuff happening in Idaho, by the way, with penalties as high as 2 to 5 years in state prison. No, it goes way beyond that. If you help someone leave the state to go to a state that perhaps exists in our millennia and has laws that actually have consideration for human dignity and all that, that would still be illegal under this bill. If you go to a place where abortion is legal, it would be illegal. You could spend half a decade in prison. That's what they want to do. Representative Barbara Ehardt of Idaho Falls put forward House Bill 98, expands the state's existing trafficking laws and would restrict alternative ways a pregnant minor might seek an abortion. So they have found a form of trafficking that maybe they would care if Matt Gaetz did it. The traditional forms, they weren't interested. So anyway, look, there's a lot of different ways that they're trying to restrict people's rights. They've generally focused on restricting them inside of their state borders, but that is not good enough for these people. They are totalitarians. They want the law in different places that they don't control to be up to them, and that's what they're trying to enshrine here. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, look, this is terrifying and this is infuriating because it's all part of a larger campaign from the right to basically like attack children. I know that they're saying that they're like, trying to protect children, but like fundamentally, this is an attack on children specifically because what we have seen through all the past like movements, right, over the past like, several years is pushing this idea, I know it's bold, that children are not property, that they are a responsibility, that if you are a parent, you are responsible to your children and you're not the owner of your children. And the reason why the idea of owning children is so important to these conservatives is because they're terrified of the idea of their kids growing up to be gay or trans or getting abortions or voting for Democrats or like, I don't even know, listening to Billie Eilish. Or whatever, right? Like they're just terrified of like their kids not doing exactly what they want them to like all the time. And it's just like rooted in this idea of like thinking that children are private property. And so that's part of this whole like restriction on abortion. It also goes in terms of like, because it targets women too, right? Because they don't just view children as property, they view women as property, right? And so like that's why like the attacks on children and the attacks on women are happening in tandem with each other, and they're using attacks on bodily autonomy as a way to do it, because bodily autonomy is something that the United States has very often used to oppress children and women, where men have denied women getting their tubes tied, right, with their husbands or whatever. Men have like wrongfully institutionalized their wives in the United States. I mean, and like literally, like do you like chat? I mean, seriously, look up what happened to JFK's sister, and that's a pretty great example of like how the United States treats not only women but also children.
Yeah, Google spousal rape and the position of many right wingers up till very recently on that, 100%. By the way, traveling across state lines for an abortion is a thing. It was, before Roe v. Wade was taken out, and it appears that the numbers are changing a little bit over time. So about 1 in 10 people obtained an abortion traveling across state lines before Roe v. Wade was overturned. But if we jump ahead to graphic 4, you're gonna see over time, based on the overall tenor of the state's abortion-related policies, how that number is changing. And you could see just in the run up to, this is 2020, by the way, in hostile states, more and more people are having to leave. It's not generally a thing that you will do, obviously, if your state is civilized when it comes to these laws, but in some places they are required to. This is the sort of thing where there has to be some sort of federal guidance. Obviously, we're not going to get out of the Supreme Court. They're fine with turning us into Gilead. They don't care. But the Democrats should be leading on trying to stop this sort of insanity.